evening. You are with the Urban Debate here. I'm Sahar Zaman. Today we are talking about a scam in which 5 suicides have taken place already. It is a scam in which you are threatened with life, you are shamed in front of your family and friends and called a loan defaulter. These are just some of the harassing tactics here that are known. We're talking about the loan app scam, where you download these easily available apps to take loans and then you get caught in a vicious circle. Now, this is something that is being reported only in the past 6 months, something that has come up only in these pandemic hit several few months of the past year. But this is now further being investigated here as well. It has been reported from across 3 states here. Hyderabad police, which is investigating this and made several arrests, is saying that it is 1.4 crore transactions that have been recorded on this already, worth 21,000 crores. There is no regulation on these apps. We are still not aware where this money is coming from. What we're looking at tonight is, given the scale of the scam, which is still being investigated, the number of people who are caught in this trap, the number of people that are being harassed, the suicides that have been reported so far, should the central government step in stronger in regulating these apps or even banning some of these apps? Remember, the police, different state police that are investigating this case have already written directly to Google Play, Google Store, where these apps are available. 113 have already been identified here, but just a few that have been knocked off on Google. The central government should perhaps be doing more on this, or can it? We're going to take us through, our viewers, through all of these details here on something that's impacting various citizens' life this year. But let's first go across to my colleague Avni Raja, who's helping us understand here the workings of these loan apps, the easy accessibility, and how easy it is to get trapped in a vicious circle of taking more and more loans and defaulting on the previous ones.
Yes, that's right, Sahar. Like you pointed out, this is completely unauthorized, all of these apps, and a lot of people have been getting caught in this trap over the last few months, especially given the kind of financial troubles people have been facing during the pandemic time. But let's just understand what really this is. Now, these are essentially instant personal loans that are offered through mobile apps. So these are apps that you can download in your mobile and you can take loans. These loans are offered at extremely high, exorbitant interest rates. I guess you can compare it to kind of the money lenders, that we had earlier on, who used to charge extremely, that are still there, in fact, charge really high interest rates. This is the digital version of that, in fact. These instant loans are offered by completely unauthorized lenders. So these are not authorized by the RBI at all. These apps don't have any tie-up with any bank or NBFCs. They simply have this app that you can download, and then they directly transact with whoever is going in for that loan. The customer can avail a loan within a matter of minutes. So that's really where the hook is, because otherwise there's usually a whole process to go through to get a loan. But here, within a few minutes, you can actually get a loan in hand, and these loans range anywhere from 1,000 rupees, from as low as 1,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees, which can be availed using these apps. Now, individuals' personal details are compromised by, taking a loan in this manner. People, in fact, who've lost jobs during the pandemic, they've borrowed money, and then they've got stuck in this entire loop, in this entire cycle of repaying the loans, of repaying the extremely high interest rates as well. So essentially, Sahar, this is how this entire system works right now. And right now, of course, the fact that the loan amounts are so small, you can take even up to 1,000 rupee loan to 50,000 rupees. That is also a big cause of concern, because people are really stretched at this point in time with the financial problems they're facing, and they're forced to do things like this. And this is purely, completely taking advantage of people's troubles. Sahar.
Avni, many thanks for giving us all of those details here, and more importantly, as you pointed out as well, that the RBI needs to be more aware of this. Right now, what we've merely heard from the RBI is a note of caution to be careful of this nature of a scam. Let's throw this open to the experts that we have with us tonight. We have Mr. Ritesh Bhatia, cybersecurity expert, Ms. Monika Halan, journalist and author. Mr. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, national spokesperson of the BJP, Mr. Brijesh Singh, the Maharashtra Police, and Mr. D.K. Mittal, who is a former banking secretary here with us as well. Many thanks, all of you, for being with us. First, going across here to Ritesh, the manner in which the easy access that one has to these loan apps and what makes people extremely vulnerable. This is with respect to no checks and balances, literally in that desperate state of mind, giving away a lot of this information and several more information that you haven't shared that gets hacked into your system as well.
Yes, and that is something that's very surprising. And I think the ones who were seeking the loans didn't realize this because they were kind of in a particular, in a state where they wanted the money. Like, for example, now during this particular time, only in the past few months, I've got like 21 victims who've come to me in the past few months. And, one of them was a girl and she just delayed by one day. And the person over there said that, he gave her a rape threat. Imagine. Just because she delayed only by one day. And this is, so look at the courage with what they talk. In many other cases, like one of them was my ex-employee. And I got a message that, look, you were the guarantor of this particular thing. And now, you can be held liable and all. And then I had to take him head on. Like, who told you that I have this thing? And then I tried to get more information. I said, how did you get my number? I said, you hacked his phone. They said, no, they gave the permissions. So, they are also kind of doing in a particular fashion, okay, the user has taken the permission. In the third case, in the third scenario, what has happened, the boy's sister's photographs have been taken from the gallery because the apps also take permission not only of your SMS and contacts, but also of your gallery. And they took that and then they threatened him to post all her pictures online, Sahar.
Right. Monika, in your understanding on what you've studied in these cases so far, in speaking to people who've also accessed, availed of loans in this manner on these easily available apps here, where should the question be pointed to? Because we still don't know how these loan apps are being sourced, what is the kind of money involved, where the money is coming from. There have been no checks and balances in the system, and these apps have just sprouted across in the past 6 months.
Sahar, every few years there is a new way of defrauding people of money. And I think there is an organized gang of people who move from emu farms to other financing schemes. And now the latest is this loan-based, app-based lending. So the only thing that I want to put out here is that, look, digital lending by itself is not bad, and there is a regulated part of the market. So RBI has rules. There are, licensed entities who are associated with NBFCs and banks. What we are talking about right now are people who are doing balance sheet lending, which means they are lending out of their own money. They are not really linked to any of the regulated entities. This is a pure crime. This is crime. If anyone has watched Jamtara, you know how big this industry can be. And some of those would have simply moved from fishing to this new way of defrauding people. So this is a crime problem. I would think that there is an association called Digital Lenders Association or anyone else. RBI will have to designate an SRO, a self-regulating organization, who should give certifications or just the fact that there is a mark which says this is a regulated entity. And that should be displayed on the app. The Play Stores should not upload any app which does not carry that star, tick, whatever they want to put over there. They should not allow those apps up on their platforms. And also, people should really understand if the loan is coming within a day, it is illegal because the processes in place are such that there is a due process where your CIBIL score is checked. It takes 24 to 48 hours. If the loan is coming in 5 minutes, it is illegal. And if you are opening up your phone, you're really doing it at your risk. So it's a multi-pronged issue. You also need to be responsible about what you're giving to unknown people. Someone sitting in a Chinese garage is going to access your entire details. So, for God's sake, be sensible about what you are giving somebody access to. So, Sahar, multi-pronged, but essentially we need
Right.
certification on the legality of the app.
Absolutely. It's also important to understand here that while we're talking about this as an aware citizen's responsibility, we should also be empathetic here to the fact that these are loans that have been taken by people under extreme stressful times. So wanting to emphasize here once again that this has merely been reported over the past 6 months only, and one understands the pandemic hit stress that one has faced and forced to take loans, forcing to pay back and unable to, and then taking more loans for more apps. In fact, the latest case of suicide that has been reported, which is the 5th suicide case connected to these loan app scam here, was someone who had taken loans amounting total to about 60 to 70,000 and got trapped in signing up from one app to another and taken loans from across 10 apps here to pay back the previous, and then unfortunately defaulting on the next. Mr. Brijesh Singh, IG Maharashtra Police, here with us. In your view, how easy is it to crack this case right now? Because there are signs with ongoing investigations, while several have been arrested, several Indians involved, Chinese nationals involved here as well. But to get to the root of where this scam is based, if there's money coming in from outside, it'll be difficult to crack on the real culprits.
Sir, I feel that technology leaves a trail which is like a tattoo. So while you can obfuscate it, while you can hide it, while you can, build obstacles in our path to discovery of truth, but ultimately you leave imprints everywhere. And it would not be difficult because if money is moving from entities, from one bank to another, from one wallet to another, so these trails can be found out. So it should not be very difficult to investigate. But you should also look at a wider aspect here. The big tech believes that it operates in a domain where no laws apply. So all of these platforms which are hosting these apps, somewhere they are causing harm to the people. And while they do not, respect national jurisdictions and national sovereignty, but they should at least look at where they are causing harm, and they should take some responsibility of this harm. So while you have a regulatory space where RBI and the government is sitting, and it has regulations for NBFCs, there are laws against money lending. Banks have their own KYCs and other mechanisms of bringing sanity. Similarly, then is also the aspect of customer being aware and not aware. But all this is somewhere failing because big tech is not taking responsibility. While this is happening, I believe that it should not be difficult to crack these cases. Once these cases are found out, a clear chain of evidence is obtained and they should be easy to investigate. Sir?
Mr. D.K. Mittal, this is of course with respect to the government and the concerned regulatory bodies and the RBI as well for have taken earlier note and more serious note of this.
So, sir, let me clarify to your viewers the regulatory space which is today for money lending. One, banks and NBFCs are authorized by RBI to do lending, and money lending is authorized by the state governments. This is how our constitution has provided. Secondly, while NBFCs doing the activity of MFI are regulated with the rate of interest with a cap of 26%, but other NBFCs which are not MFIs or banks, they have to go as per the policy, the prudential principles for fixing the rate of interest. Similarly, under state laws, there is a cap 12 to 14% depending on state to state for doing money lending. And there is a license to be taken from each state government for doing lending in that state. Now, the question is when these apps are being put on the Play Store, there isn't any supervision by anybody. And that is the Latina. Mm-hmm. So it is there where the supervision will have to be, coordinated. It is just like chit fund scams, which happened about 10 years, 12 years back. So this RBI and state governments will have to work together to see that which are the apps which are working on this. And as and when the app comes, they verify it out. Similarly, RBI need to mandate to all NBFCs and banks that if they have joined with any app, they must display on their website. And the app must also display the name of the entity which is lending. Because we must agree that this is a good technology which must be put to good use. The question is that it is not being put to good use. And the good use can happen only when we regulate the flow like this. The second part, which is that the recoveries are being done in a manner by hijacking or by hacking the phone, getting all data of the relatives, friends, everybody, and then pressurizing them, the borrower, to repay the money with very high rate of interest. Now, RBI has laid down detailed guidelines for banks and NBFCs for recovery. There are certain principles which the banks and NBFCs have to follow for recoveries. Similarly, state governments have also prescribed something in their rules, a perspective statement.
Yes.
Now, it is where that we together should work for it very fast. And all the apps which are there on the app stores must be looked at very carefully. And if necessary, they need to be blocked by telling the app store owners. That's not a big thing. I mean, RBI have full authority along with the government of India's Ministry of IT to say that we can block it out. And we have good leverages if they with Google Pay or anybody to see that why this is not done or where the Apple or any store. So I think this is the first check we need to carefully do it. The technology need not to be blamed. It is the user of technology which is to be blamed. And that I think the principle which should be applicable. That's my view. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right. Yes, Mr. Mittal, interesting analogy here for our viewers to help understand this better as well. This is like a chit fund scam here, but this is on the digital space. But the reason that they're, of course, not under the scanner as far as following available guidelines, instructed guidelines by the government of India is because perhaps these are apps that are based outside the country. Mr. Gopal Krishna Agarwal of the BJP here, we've heard what all experts have had to say. In your view, when can we have the government step in stronger on this? In taking the step of banning a lot of these apps, which have already been identified by respective state governments of Karnataka, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, who are investigating these cases here, instead of writing to Google, requesting Google to ban these apps, why can't we have the government of India ban these apps?
No, RBI is taken cognizance of it. RBI is working on it, and I think these are multi-pronged approach that the government is taking. It is not only that the Google government is writing to Google; they have put an FIR in itself, and definitely earlier government of India had banned so many these apps from China, which were detrimental to national security. Similarly, these apps will also be banned because there has digital banking and loan in itself. The whole system has to be investigated and looked into. I think RBI is the real regulatory authority which can take action on this, and they have already taken cognizance. And I think these issues with the economic offense wing, police, local police, and the RBI, all three will take action on this. We also need to create awareness about them because ultimately everything has to be regulated, but there are different options with these kind of frivolous people take. And one thing also it becomes important is that there is an issue with regard to data localization and the persons, companies operating out from outside the geographical boundary of the country. So these all issues are important, but I think your create media can play a very important role in addition to what the RBI guideline and awareness programs can come. These are also important.
But Mr.
have to
Agarwal, the
understand.
RBI has not taken cognizance of it to the extent that it is instructing banks here to be more careful in protecting citizens' rights who have taken in these loans here. It has only released a statement of caution. There is quicker, stricter, immediate action that can be taken by the government in understanding how this has impacted people. We have 5 suicide cases already on this.
No, how the RBI gives instruction to the bank in an internal circular and advisories. It is it does not give instruction to banks through public letters and public notification, it internally gives advisories. And at RBI also, I have been working in the bank as an independent director. RBI officials also call them, and I think bank themselves are also quite aware about if something are brought to their notice. But I think the more important part is these companies operating, these apps operating outside the geographical boundary of India, though they are using the banking channel for money transfers, etc. But other than transferring money, other activities which have been pointed out by other panelists about getting access to the data of the victims and then calling, all those
Yes,
activities, that has to be taken by the local police. Those
right.
actions people have to inform, because all things cannot be done only at the RBI level. So
No,
113
no, no, Mr. Agarwal, there's a lot
apps.
more with immediate action that the government can do here as well. Ritesh Bhatia, in your view, given that this is now established a security threat, a security hazard as far as safety of citizens are concerned, information that they give is taken in beyond what they've given, their systems are hacked into, they are harassed to the extent of being threatened, as you said, life threats, rape threats, some unfortunate cases of suicide as well. There is perhaps a lot more that the government today can do in taking more immediate action. We've seen that immediate action in banning apps previously as well. Why cannot we have that right now?
I think it can be done, and especially, firstly, let's look at from the victim's angle. We've been looking at the loan apps and everything. Let's look at the victim's angle who've been like really traumatized. Many of them are depressed.
Yes.
Some were suicidal. Like these are the kind of complaints like, the victims came to us with. So, what is like a resolution for them as of now, because as Mr. Mittal rightly said that beyond a particular percentage that they cannot ask. So can these loan providers, whoever they are, like whether you call them like digital goons or you call them like fake guys, or can we do something about it, that okay, like set a like a cap on the in the terms of like the percentage, and probably give them more time also, because what happened was, how did they get into this vicious circle was because of this harassment. They started calling the mom, dad, the in-laws and the friends and the families, and because of that everybody started calling the victim and saying, "Are they are calling me, they are harassing me, why don't you just pay up? It's just like 5,000, it's 6,000." Now to pay that 5-6,000, now he downloaded the other app and he did the same thing, and the circle just went on and on. So can something be done about this particular thing, an immediate relief, because this is
Right.
something probably the government can definitely step in and do, because when they went to the police also, the police said, look, you have taken a loan, now there's nothing that we can do about it, you got to repay about it. So I think this is one area I am particularly like concerned about, and I think the government can do something over here by putting a cap on the interest rate, at least, Seher.
Sir, I'd like to add something here.
Right, because in some of these through... Yes, Mr. Mittal, please go ahead.
So this is a story of need and greed. Customers have a need and lenders have a greed. Now, this is the story of this whole episode. Now, the banks and NBFCs are not involved. They are not lending. If they are lending, then they are charging rates which are regulated by the RBI. It is a question of entities which are private entities, which are basically lending, or private individuals. Now, if they are sending money from abroad, then there's a violation of FEMA also, because you can't borrow money from abroad for any purpose, like which is not authorized under FEMA and the delegated powers of the RBI notified by the RBI. So in my view, the step is like this, which should be done. A, the government need to act and authorize RBI to act on it along with the Ministry of Information Technology. They should give all these apps a date of maybe a week's time to say that unless you notify a lender on your app will be blocked on this date. And then get these apps blocked, like they have blocked the Chinese app. That will clean up the whole system. And after that, make a mechanism that if you want to create any app which is not using a bank or NBFC authorized by the RBI, then there's a mechanism which clears it out, which is a joint mechanism of RBI and the state government together. Now, if you do that, then basically you're using technology in a regulated manner, which is the purpose of regulation.
Right, Mr. Mittal, yes, we understand that this can be further be investigated in several fronts here. But Monica, in your view, while this is being investigated, while we're aware part of the money involved here in this, because what Hyderabad here, the Hyderabad police here has stated that about 21,000 crores amount of transaction that has already taken place here. While all of this is being investigated, how can the government help in preventing any further cases? Because there are also apps, it's a clear picture so far with these investigations. There are apps, about 113, once again by the Hyderabad State Police, listed out, identified that these are apps which are part of the scam. And they're still available.
Right.
One can still have access to them and fall victim yet again. How do we act on that direction? How do we have the government to act in that direction here?
I think it has to be multi-pronged. So the government has to lean on the platforms to say that you cannot absolve yourself from all responsibility, because it is your platform which is putting up these apps, and there has to be a way for the apps to disclose whether or not they are a registered and licensed entity. So the existing apps, whichever those apps are, must immediately be taken down. And that is either for the local state government to do or the central government to do. It depends which law it will come under. But I think there is enough power with the government, state and center, to take down these apps. So if the app cannot disclose its affiliation or its relationship with a licensed NBFC or bank, it should immediately be taken down. Banning all of the apps is a very blunt instrument to use, because digital lending is very powerful. What happens on the street is now happening on the digital lending. There is a big demand for people for quick loans, but it is clearly being misused and people are clearly being harassed. And it's a pity that it's happening to people who have been distressed because of lower wages during the corona crisis. So I don't think anything can be done. We have a good, strong family system. I think families will come to the aid of these people and probably help pay off some of the loans. But going ahead, we should definitely ban the apps which are not registered with a bank or an NBFC.
Right. Mr. Brijesh Singh, 20 minutes into this discussion here, does this give us a clearer picture on what's well within the hands now of both the RBI as well as the government of India, apart from just a statement on a note of caution? There is clearly much more in the form of a stringent step or an immediate step that can be taken.
Banning is not all that simple. So you have to, if you have to ban something, then you have to give them an opportunity to be heard. Then for that, you would have to have evidence which is adduced and which is produced before a body where it can apply its mind and decide whether it is a fit case to ban within particular sections of law. Then also you would have to give a chance to the other side also. I also tend to agree with what Mr. Mittal has been saying, that if you indulge in risky behaviors, then you are aware of its consequences. Going further, there are two parts here. One is the app and the second is these recovery agencies. I think state governments definitely are taking action on these recovery agencies, and that is why you are seeing these cases. So I've seen a lot of action happening across states here. Law enforcement agencies are sharing information with each other. Police forces are telling each other about what falls within their jurisdiction and to take action in those entities, and coordinated action is going on. So I think we should congratulate the police forces for having taken stringent action on this. On the regulatory space, action is happening because once these cases emerge, then appropriate communication is sent to RBI, to MeitY, and to all the other respective regulators, and then subsequent action follows. So I think action is already being taken, and but it is time to make users aware that they should not indulge in risky behaviors which can attract these kind of consequences. Sahar?
Mr. Gopal Agarwal, please respond if we've managed to convince you here that the government can right now be taking in far more action than what is already known with the investigations, because this is still an ongoing investigation here, but we are well aware of the amount of money that the ED is involved in this investigation here as well, but for immediate relief on stricter action on these apps, because it just doesn't pertain to this aspect of the loan app scam. It then larger also takes into account on how powerful a government can be in reining in these apps which continue to be illegal on the digital space.
I think government has sufficient power and economic offense wing, local police. On the bigger
Yes.
problem in these cases is about the recovery, the way they are working for a recovery and getting access, calling, giving threats, etc. It's a criminal activity, and it is a case of this criminal act. And I think local police have sufficient power to act. And I agree with Mr. Brijesh Singh when he's saying that these cases, etc., have come to light because of police actions and government getting into actions. It's a state subject basically. As far as regulation of the banks, etc., is about in the domain of RBI. For that, I am very sure that RBI, once it takes cognizance, it clearly comes out with advisories, and bank, etc., themselves have strong, robust compliances mechanism. The only issue is when these apps and these companies are acting not within the purview of RBI and banks. So the issue of regulating them, about them,
Yes, this is not within the banking
it's a
system.
longer
That's the
issue.
problem. Which is why I've been asking not for the RBI to not be looking at the RBI, but be looking at the government, because these apps, we still don't know where the money is coming from. But we know that the money is not always coming from Indian banks. This is beyond our banking sector.
So I think it is only regulating banks, etc., is within the RBI domain. And the government, when it comes to law and order issue, recovering, creating threats and taking unfair means for recovery, etc., is within the domain of local police. State government and police is sufficiently empowered to arrest them, put them under arrest, and etc. But if certain companies are working through outside the geographical area, then banning them and taking action comes about from the central government. So that all three will have to look into. But there are these three issues, and now I am very sure that the government is taken cognizance of this, and therefore only this issue has come to light, and RBI, government, and local police, all three will be able to control this menace. But ultimately, people's awareness is also important. They have to, if they get into this kind of loan sharks, then they will apply different means. So people have to at least be aware that what information they need to share.
Okay, so let's talk about how people need to be warned here. This is also for our viewers watching, because of the easy accessibility of these loans. You're in a traumatic situation. You think that this is an easy solution here, get a few months relief, but you are literally harassed after that. Ritesh Bhatia, as far as the checks and balances here that one needs to keep in mind, if you want to avail of a loan over an app, number one, is it advisable to avail of loans through apps? And if yes, what are the points that we need to keep in mind?
Honestly, it's just not advisable, because if you look at it, the kind of processing fees that they are taking, then they add the GST and so for 5,000 rupees, you're actually getting just hardly 2,800 rupees. So it doesn't make any sense at all. Now, if at all you have to understand like what are their terms and conditions, because many times they don't write it also. But still, if you're doing it, when you're downloading an app, just go and read the reviews over there. Just look at their ratings, what is mentioned section in the Play Store or the App Store, that what is the rating they have, what are the reviews, because you will see a lot many reviews where people are saying these are fraudsters, or these are also, because there are many fake ones also. Let's not even forget that there are these loan apps, plus there are many fake ones also who who ask you for a processing fee in advance, by saying, okay, you just pay us a small amount and then we will, okay, disburse the amount. But that never ever happens. So we need to understand that particular part also. Thirdly, in some of the cases I saw where the people have actually written that these are the permissions that we are going to seek. And even in Google, you have an option where the developer thing is written about the developer. If you go over there, you are able to see what all permissions are they going to seek. So having a permission of contacts, of gallery, of the storage card, it doesn't make any particular sense as such. So firstly, definitely, I mean, because these are like small amounts of 5,000, 7,000, better to borrow from friends and family rather than be embarrassed like this. And secondly, if at all you have to do, I think some of the panelists suggested that they could have like a kind of a verified thing, like they are part of the NBFC or something like that, and then we borrow from them only, not from any random person.
Right. Monika Halal, with these investigations here going on as well, on how this is still a very difficult task at hand, because this is also something that state polices and the enforcement directorate found in through another case that was being investigated, the online gaming apps, and then they stumbled upon instances here to loan apps, concerning loan apps as well, because this is money routed through shell companies, money routed through digital wallets here, primarily for the purpose to avoid detection.
Right. So I think people fighting crime have a whole new space in terms of digital crime. And I think a related aspect, Sahar, also is the whole privacy laws and some sort of limit on what kind of data somebody can ask for. So I think every time there is, an effort by the government to put in some privacy, there will always be a pushback from the business side. But I think we need to have defined time-bound consent for what data is needed for that particular transaction, who can see it and for how long. So this wall-to-wall consent that is today available should, I think over time, this will also go away, because I think we are all learning through accidents what can actually happen and what kind of laws and rules we want. So we want that fine balance of rules which allow business to flourish. We want, because there's a demand and supply, but we also don't want crime. So my feeling is, my thoughts are that it is very unfortunate what has happened, but over time I think we will have better regulation in place, and the people fighting crime just have a whole new area where I think everybody has to upgrade skills.
Right. Mr. Mittal, final word to you here, because the workings of these apps is now beginning to establish here that this doesn't involve our banks. This doesn't involve our banking sector. This is beyond what our existing RBI guidelines can catch. This is something to be handled by another body. This is beyond the safety net of even what lending norms and rules are to be followed.
So, Sahar, once this issue has come to light, our government of India, state government and regulators, I think we all need to create a system by which we regulate existing apps as well as the future apps. Now, as Monika ji has said, we should look at whether app is asking what kind of information, whether they can really access to all data of the mobile phone of the customer, why. So these are the questions which Ministry of Information and Technology can design, because they have a control of the technology side. They are the repository of controlling all apps and their full authority. I slightly disagree with Mr. Brijesh Singh that in case of emergency, they cannot do their suspension. They can do that. Under the law, they are permitted to do that if there's an emergency nature. So I think the ministry need to act along with regulator the RBI and with some of the state governments, they can take them on board and move fast on that. So they clean up the past and they also lay down for future. And they give all app owners a time of a week or 10 days that unless you display the name of the lender, we will block your app. Apart from specifying other things. No, that will clean up the system. Any app which is linked to a bank or NBFC, we have no problem. But if a bank is linked to any money lending institution, which could be, then we need to see the license of that. And then the regulation of rate of interest will come automatically. And they need to follow the code of recovery, which is laid down by RBI for NBFCs and banks. So I think this is not very complicated, but perhaps everybody need to act together in a very quick manner, and this can be resolved.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Appreciate all of you speaking with us in various aspects of this horrifying scam that has now come to the fore. It is still being investigated here, but something that goes beyond even our self-regulators and banking sector here. It's a lot more for the IT department to handle and directly for the government of India to avoid any further harassment of citizens, caught in a fix here at a stressful time, taking in huge loans, but also in a continuous word of caution for people accessing loan apps. Better, best avoided. It is never a safe option here to access loan apps for money. Please go through the existing route of directly approaching our banks, which also provide a safety net for repaying the loan in a prolonged period of time instead of a very limited, tight period of time, or what these loan apps force you to do. Many thanks for being with us.